Today's story will surprise you. You will have a lot of emotions, anger, sadness. But this story is something you must hear today. Let's start. The sound of the dirt hitting the coffin was dull, which matched the dreary day. I was standing there, watching as the minister said some words meant to ease the suffering of those left behind. I held my daughter's hand. Her husband stood just behind us, his hand on my shoulder, offering comfort. My son was standing next to me, his girlfriend beside him. At 49 years old, I never expected to be standing at a gravesite, burying my wife. I always believed deep down that I would be the first to go. I thought that due to my work and the way I had lived my life, I would surely die before my wife, and that when I did, I'd be an old man. Now, I felt old, ancient. After the funeral, there was the reception. Everyone came up to me, telling me how sorry they were, how great she was, how wonderful we were, how young she was, everything but what I needed to hear. We had been married for over 20 years. We had 2 kids, both now off on their own. The youngest, my daughter, is married and about to have my first grandchild. The oldest, my son, is working in New York City in the financial district. Both are doing well. With all the people at our house, well, I guess it's my house now. I'm having a hard time adjusting to being single. For the last 20 years, everything has been ours, not mine. Anyway, there were about 40 people around, talking and offering their support. I just wanted to be alone at the moment. Feeling quite fed up, I finally slipped out into the backyard and worked my way out the back gate, intending to take a short walk. As I closed the gate, someone drove up the alley and parked their car right next to where I was standing. "Jeff, how are you holding up?" It was Marie, my wife's younger sister, the one person in the world I didn't want to see at that moment. You see, it was partially Marie's fault that my loving wife was dead. Okay, maybe that isn't really fair to Marie or my wife, but in my heart, I knew that if Marie had kept her damn interest to herself, Brenda would still be here with me. "I'm just going for a walk, Marie. Everyone is inside. You've been mentioned." I didn't smile, nor did I invite her openly. I just stated the facts as I saw them. I now wanted to be away from here for certain, and I was sure Marie would try to invite herself on my walk. I should have known better, as she just brushed past me and went into the backyard. She had always been all about Marie. That's why, when Marie had taken a sudden interest in Brenda's personal life, I became suspicious. It was out of character for her younger sister. In many ways, I sighed, glad to be free of her for the moment. There was a cloud hanging between us and a chasm that, to me, seemed insurmountable. Now, family or no, Marie was persona non grata around me. It's a long story about what happened and how it all mushroomed into the funeral today. Life goes on, just like water in a river, always moving relentlessly onward. Okay, here is my story. This is what happened in my life. Brenda and I met after college at her job. I had been to the insurance company she worked at to renew my policies on the house and car, and she had been the agent assigned to me. I found myself making excuses to go back after our initial meeting, and, somewhere along the way, finally got the nerve to ask her out. After several months of dating, we realized we were deeply in love with each other, so we got married. 2 children and a full, wonderful marriage followed right up until 2 years ago, anyway. I had never questioned marrying Brenda. We were like 2 peas in a pod, very compatible. Then Marie became interested in Brenda's life. I'm sure she was well-meaning. I believe Marie thought that Brenda needed to reach out and grow. Everything one could see in a person who was trying to be better and more loving of those around her, could be seen in Marie. She had been trying hard to help Brenda with what Marie perceived as shortcomings. It started with Wednesday night girls' night out. Soon, it grew to include Wednesdays and Fridays. Vincent was added. It seemed that after a while, Marie was spending more time with Brenda than I was. Of course, that was true only because Marie was capitalizing on Brenda's time when I would normally have been at home. It soon became Marie this or Marie that. When it became a daily occurrence, I started to withdraw from Brenda. Every time I tried to get some quality time with my wife, Marie seemed to be there. Anytime I wanted Brenda to be with me, Marie seemed more important. Every time I wanted to take Brenda out for dinner, it seemed to coincide with one of the girls' nights. What had been a very communicative and open relationship became closed off and non-talkative. I couldn't express how I felt without Brenda getting upset, accusing me of being hard and unfair to her younger sister. If all I was going to do was upset my wife by trying to be with her, then why would I bother? A few months after the growing girls' night out trend began, I could see that my marriage was in serious trouble. Yet, I couldn't discuss it with my wife without her becoming defensive and angry. So, I did the worst thing possible. I gave up. I spent my time doing what I wanted, and Brenda began to do her own thing as well. On our rare nights at home together, we felt like two strangers living in the same house. Then, one night, or rather, it was morning, but it started the night before, all hell broke loose. I was at home, working in the garage on a project. It was a Friday night, and Brenda and Murray had gone out for their regular Friday outing. They left the house around 6:30, and I found myself making my own supper, something I had been doing increasingly. Eating in the garage seemed the simplest thing to do, so I prepared dinner and took it out there. Listening to my boombox as I worked and ate was soothing. I worked until 11 and then went inside. I half expected Brenda to be in bed already, but I was surprised to find she wasn't even home yet. I saw the light flashing on the phone, indicating a message. "Jeff, I'm staying at Murray's tonight. We've been out a bit longer, and it's too late for me to drive home in the condition I'm in. I'll see you in the morning." Why bother? I thought to myself. I never see you anymore anyway. Just move in with your bish sister and be happy. Update. Yeah, I'll admit I was mad and jealous. I had lost something when Murray took such a special interest in her sister, and now I couldn't seem to find a way to get my wife back. I miss being with Brenda. I miss the talks, the laughter, the gentle chatter of a couple who knew each other very well. And most of all, lately, it seemed I missed the play we had once shared with each other. I replayed the message before deleting it, and that's when I heard men's voices in the background. There were men at Murray's house with my wife. It sounded like a party was going on too. I picked up the phone and dialed. After 9 rings, someone picked up a man's voice. "Yeah, it's your dime. Don't waste it." "Yeah, let me speak to Brenda, please." "Is she the one with long hair?" "She's a bit tied up at the moment. Maybe call back tomorrow, like around say, noon." "This is her husband. I need to speak to her." Put her on the phone. "Shut up." Click. The bastard had hung up on me. Getting mad, I redialed the phone. Nobody picked up. I tried 3 times over the next half hour, getting madder and madder. Finally, I had enough. Grabbing my car keys off the counter, I left the house and drove over to Murray's. There was nobody home at her place. That's when I remembered I had dialed Brenda's cell phone. I had no idea where she was or who she was with. I didn't know if she was there on her own or if she had been kidnapped. I knew nothing. I drove home, madder than I'd ever been mad and scared. I went in and made myself a drink. At some point, I decided that Brenda was doing this of her own free will, and that the cops couldn't or wouldn't do anything about it for 24 hours anyway. I had gone so far as to even think that Brenda had invited the men to be with them. My mind was playing tricks on me, and the alcohol wasn't helping me see things clearly. In the morning, I woke up with a severe headache and a dry mouth. I took a shower, got dressed, and grabbed a bottle of aspirin. After taking a few, I decided to take a few more. It was an 8 aspirin kind of headache. In the mirror, I saw a man with a haunted, lost look. After eating a light breakfast, I sat around waiting for either a phone call or for Brenda to come home. Around 2 o'clock, she pulled into the driveway. She walked in looking refreshed, freshly showered, and wearing one of my favorite dresses. It was a slinky, tight-fitting number that showed off a lot of leg and a bit of her chest. In the past, Brenda had only worn it when out with me, and even then, only if she had certain intentions for the night. "Sorry for not getting home last night, dear. Murray and I had a few too many, and by the time we got to her place, I was really tired, too tired to drive. So, I stayed at her place." "Oh, what's wrong, Jeff? You seem upset." "Well, I called your cell last night several times. After the first call, a man answered and said you were tied up. I told him I was your husband, and he hung up on me. No one answered after that. Now, seeing the dress you're wearing, I have to ask. Did you wear it for some other man? I also wonder where you wore it since I drove over to Marie's, and neither of you was there." Her place was dark. Brenda sat down, but she missed the chair. She had turned as I was talking, and hearing about the man who picked up her cell phone, she went pale. I guess she thought the easy chair was closer than it was, but she missed it by a foot or so. She didn't move from the floor, though. Her hands were on her face, and she was crying. I couldn't bear it, as it was clear she had done something she regretted. I stormed out to the garage, locked the door behind me, and cranked up the stereo as loud as I could stand it. I didn't accomplish much other than banging things around for a couple of hours, and mostly cursing at Murray, Brenda, and the man on the phone from last night. By the time I cooled off and turned off the stereo, I had begun to think about my marriage and how it was unraveling around me. All of this was because of Marie, as far as I was concerned. Before Murray, Brenda and I had been happy and loving towards each other. Since Murray's involvement, we had grown apart, and now it seemed Brenda was seeking happiness or satisfaction from another man, or worse, multiple men. In the hours I spent in my shop, I came to the realization that I had probably lost Brenda for good. We were headed for a divorce. Going into the house, I found myself alone. Brenda was gone, presumably to Murray's for support. I went to our bedroom and was shocked to see Brenda's dresser drawers open and empty. Looking in the closet, I saw just a few items, things she hardly wore anymore. She had left me. Given the situation, I only had the option of online banking available to me. I went online and began to work out how to move money around to protect myself, in case Brenda decided to leave me permanently. I wasn't going to lose out financially after having worked so many years to build up a substantial savings and bank account. After that, I called a buddy of mine who had been through a divorce, and we made plans to meet and discuss Brenda and me. I called our kids and told them things between their mom and I had become strained, and she might have moved out. My daughter asked where, and I honestly said I didn't know. Update 1. A week went by with me working every day, hard and busy, to keep my mind off my deteriorating home life. At night, I would drink and sleep, getting up just in time to shower before heading back to work. 1 week to the day since I last saw my wife, I met up with my buddy, and we talked. He didn't have much advice for me other than what I already sort of knew. Protect my assets first, then worry about her and what she might do or want. I never heard from Brenda the whole week, no phone calls, no visits to work, nothing. By Saturday night, I was certain she had given up on us long before the previous week, and was now with some other man. I finally called Marie's house that night. Marie was home and quite surprised to find out that Brenda wasn't with me. I thought she was still mad at me and staying close to home. You haven't seen her at all, Jeff. That's not right. What happened between you two? You happened, Marie. That's awfully harsh. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. We were fine until you started taking Brenda out every Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes other nights. You girls' nights out destroyed us, Marie. I hope you achieved whatever you were aiming for. She's gone, and I'm sure we're about to get divorced. If she's not with you, she must be with that guy that answered her phone last Friday night. Oh, you know about last Friday night. I know that on Saturday afternoon, she showed up at home in her wanna-get-laid dress, all freshly showered. Then I told her about some strange guy answering her phone, and she just sat on the floor and cried. Later on, when I came in from the garage, she had packed her things and left me. So, thanks, Marie. You and your antics cost me my wife. Don't ever come around me again. I heard her yelling not to hang up, but I was too mad to listen to her. I just wanted to shut everything out, her, Brenda, that other man, and life in general. Furious doesn't begin to describe my feelings or thoughts. Just hearing Marie on the phone was enough to set me off. I was angry all over again, angry and lost. My wife was off somewhere, and I had no way of fixing things. After shouting into the phone, I slammed it down so hard I broke the handset. Now, on top of everything else, I had to buy a new phone. It was a while before I decided to go to bed. As I got up, I noted that I had been sitting right where Brenda had collapsed not so long ago. By morning, I figured I had lost out on sleep and would have been better off just staying up all night drinking. A dreary Sunday morning greeted me, and I wasn't in any mood to deal with anyone. Around noon, I heard a car pull up in our driveway. Looking out the window, I saw my son climbing out. Dad, what the heck has gone on around here? Mom came to my place a week ago, upset and crying. She won't talk to me about anything except that you're going to leave her. What's going on? I told you we were having problems, son. Besides, she left me. She packed her things and left. This is the first I've known of her whereabouts this whole time. Yeah, Mom came to my place. It was kinda embarrassing. I had a friend over, and she spent the night. I didn't even know where your mom had been. When does she show up at your place? Sunday, after you called and talked to me. She refused to let me call you. She wanted me to leave you alone, fearing you'd hunt her down. What's going on, Dad? You're not going to hurt her, are you? I was tired. It had been a week of worry and stress like none I'd ever experienced. Now my son had to drive over 300 miles on a Sunday to ask me what was going on, and why his mom was at his place, refusing to let him talk to me. Look, last week she went out with your Aunt Marie. Mom told me about that. She ended up missing your call, and somehow you got really angry about it. What got into you? Why would you do that? She missed my call. That's what she told you. That she just missed my call. Yeah, she told me that she missed a call you made, that someone else intercepted it before she knew about it. Then she said you got really mad at her. She was afraid, so she ran. That isn't quite correct. She missed telling you some important details. Then why don't you tell me what happened, Dad? Last Friday night, your mom went out with your Aunt Murray, like clockwork. I was in the garage working on a few things. I came in around 11 and found your mom wasn't home yet. I saw she had left a message on the phone that I had missed. She told me she had too much to drink and was going to stay at Murray's. Okay, she told me that part about the message. Yeah, well, when she left the message, I replayed it to make sure I understood it right. I've seen you do that lots of times. You always replay messages like that. I replayed it, and in the background, I heard men's voices. That worried me. So, I called your mom's cell phone. It rang 9 times, and then some strange guy picked up. I asked to speak to her, and he told me she was tied up at the moment and to call back tomorrow afternoon. I told him I was her husband and demanded he put her on. He hung up on me after telling me to duck off. Oh, Mom sort of sugarcoated that part. So, Mom cheated on you. To be honest, I'm not sure what happened, son. She left before we talked about it, but she was acting guilty as hell about something. I haven't talked to her since Saturday afternoon. You two need to talk to each other. Can you come over to my place and talk? I'll be there for both of you, and my new girlfriend will be there too. You need to at least discuss what's going on. You have too many good years together to just toss them away like this, Dad. I'll talk, but will your mother? If you show up, I'll make sure she is there. Oh, and just come as you are, Dad, and no guns or weapons or anything, okay? I mean, I know you're mad and everything, and your talk may ignite more anger between you two, but you need to work things out or figure out what you're going to do. You can't stew on this for very long. Neither of you can. I'll follow you home. Why don't you just hop in and ride with me? What if your mom and I can't work things out at your place, Mark? I'll make sure you get home. Okay, Dad. Trust me. During the drive to my son's place, I realized that I still had some love for Brenda, even if she had cheated on me. I think that right at that moment, I was willing to try to work things out with her. When we got to Mark's place, he parked, and we went inside. His girlfriend was sitting with Brenda, and when I walked in, they both stood up, looking nervous. Hi, Jeff, Brenda said. How have you been? How had I been? What did she think? I started to boil. Before I could check myself, I began to blow up. I was barely able to curtail my anger in time. How do you think I've been? You cheating? I saw her shrinking from me as I yelled. I had to pause and catch myself. I'm sorry. I've been okay, I guess. Drinking a bit too much lately. Confused about things too. She looked pale and nervous. The woman I loved, the woman I had spent the better part of my life with, was afraid of me. That hurt me deep inside. My heart was breaking. I still loved her, and she was afraid of me. Could we patch things up? The young woman, who must have been the guest, spoke up. I'm Jill. You must be Mark's father. I wish we could have met under better circumstances. I took her proffered hand and shook it gently. Me too. I hope that we can get to know each other a bit more, though. Mark hadn't told us he was seeing anyone yet. I glanced knowingly at him. He saw the slight reprimand in my eyes, I'm sure. Jill kept me on track. Look, you two need to talk. So, Mark and I will be in the other room. If things get sticky or loud, we'll come to the rescue, okay? You guys just sit and talk things over for now. Try to keep you cool though. This is an apartment building, and the walls and floors are thin. Mark and Jill left us to our own devices. I guess I need to explain things to you, Jeff. First of all, I'm so sorry. I really am. So, you have something you need to be sorry about. Did you sleep with some guy? Not exactly. I don't understand. Not exactly. That's kind of like being half pregnant, dear. It wasn't just one guy, and we didn't sleep. More than one guy. Her revelation hit me hard. Frankly, I was stunned. She had been with more than one man. This was not the person I had married years ago at all. I didn't know who she was. You did this openly and freely of your own choice. Not exactly. I was drunk. I think I had way too much to drink that night. Murray had also been pushing me for weeks to get out. I don't know, maybe I was lonely too. I just don't know how it all came about, but suddenly there I was on a bed with two men. Actually, it started with just one guy, but by the end, all of them were anyway. Murray was there too, and by the end of the night, I had been with all of them. Yes, Marie too. The guys kind of arranged that. It wasn't rape. I was drunk enough that I guess I didn't think about what I was doing and how wrong it was until it was far too late. Her revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had expected to hear she had cheated on me. I hadn't anticipated more than one man, nor had I imagined her and Marie doing things together. They were sisters, for Christ's sake. I sat there, not knowing what to say. Our talk had taken about 5 minutes so far, and we were already delving into the part about her having been with other men. She wasn't hiding, or at least I didn't think she was hiding anything from me. She must have read my mind. I will tell you whatever you want to know, Jeff, if I can. Part of all that went on, I'm not sure how it came to be. I'm not sure when I became I am, though. I don't know what caused me to forget my wedding vows or my husband waiting for me at home. All I do know is that at one point, I heard myself begging for more. I'm a terrible person. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve to live. Her sobs took over her ability to speak, and she just collapsed. I watched her, not knowing who this person in front of me was. I didn't say anything. I was too shocked and stunned to even know where to start. This was all too much for me to handle. I began to feel ill. Update 2. I started to throw up. I calmed down and was able to settle my stomach with a glass of water. Wiping my face off, I returned to the kitchen table. Brenda was in tears, crying softly. I wanted to go to her and hold her. The problem was, I didn't know if it would be okay ever again. I sat down heavily, wanting to know what to say or ask without getting sick again. So, you and Murray's nights out were for scouting for men then? No, that never happened before. We had gone to a new club. I told you that I had been drinking too much. Anyway, these guys were buying us drinks and dancing with us. They complimented us and made me feel beautiful and playful. Then, the next thing I know, I called you and left a message that I was too drunk, and then we went to their place. Lately, I hadn't been paying attention to you. Are you hearing yourself, Brenda? You're the reason. You and your sister. You haven't been letting me even try. I've tried to get you to go out with me, but you've been claiming that you and Murray needed to be together. Not only that, but you told me in the message that you were at Murray's. Brenda, you lied to me. No, at the time, I thought we were going to Murray's. But the men wanted to take us to their place first, though it was just to be for a minute. So, one of them needed to pick something up, and we never thought it would be a problem. We ended up staying there, though. If only I hadn't thought you should have paid more attention to me, I might have been better prepared to fend off what happened. I couldn't help raising my voice as she again insinuated that it was somehow my fault. I haven't been paying enough attention to you lately. Again with that. God damn it. Need I remind you that you've been the one ignoring me? You're the one who has been going out with Murray every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday night. Always Murray this and Murray that. You've been pushing me away while taking up with her. To me, you're the one who has been pushing me out of your life. From the change in her eyes, I could tell she suddenly realized she couldn't blame me entirely for what she'd done. I know, Jeff. I mean, I didn't realize it was me until now. You're right about that part. You hadn't been paying attention to me because I had been with Murray so much, cutting you off. And it pissed you off. You think I liked being a. You've mentioned it several times. I've never called you a slut, nor have I treated you like one. But you know what? I hated it, Jeff. Something inside me snapped that night, and I found out I liked what I did with those men. It was the tastes, textures, sizes, and combinations. It was different and new to me. Deep down, I loved the different things we were doing, some of which I'd always wanted to try with you, but couldn't bring myself to ask. I lost myself in the whole mess, and now I've lost you. I hate it because I found myself with other men, doing things that I should only have been doing with you. I know that I've driven you away for good now. Hope shone in her eyes, and her whole posture changed. I'd do anything, Jeff. I want to be with you. I want to stay married to you. I wouldn't go out anymore, ever, unless you are with me. I'll be a stay-at-home wife and do anything you want me to. I'll do anything, Jeff. So now you're suddenly willing to talk to me and work with me. What about when you were going out with Murray? Are you going to start that again later on when things cool off? You know she drove a wedge between us, don't you? She was taking up all the time that you used to spend with me. I'm sorry about that too. I never really realized how much I'd been ignoring you and avoiding you. I don't know why I let myself do that. Well, it isn't going to be that simple now, Brenda. You've cheated on me. Really, you've been with other men, several of them. How do you think that makes me feel? Do you have any idea what that makes me feel like? And then you try to pass it all off to me, saying you stayed with Murray. Would you have kept up the lie if I hadn't found out? Are you going to be lying to me from now on too? My voice had risen, and I could feel the hot anger bubbling up. Brenda could see it in my eyes too. I saw her look of fear as my voice began climbing in volume. Mark and Jill slipped into the kitchen at that moment. Hey, Dad, Mom, how about we take a short break now? Maybe Dad and I can take a walk, or maybe Dad and Jill. Jill grabbed my arm and pulled me out of my chair. I had half risen, so it wasn't much of a tug for her, but I had the distinct feeling that she had some strength. Come on, Jeff, you and I can take a walk. You can vent to me while Mark and Brenda have a chat. Yeah, fine. It was probably the best thing they could have done at that moment. My anger had been running wild, and it had gotten close to where I might not have been able to control it. I'm not sure what I would have done had I not been sidetracked, and that thought will haunt me for a long time. We walked for about a block before Jill started talking to me. Jeff, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. Brenda and I talked about what she did while Mark went to get you. She is genuinely repentant. She's so sorry she did something like that and possibly ruined her marriage. I believe her, and I think alcohol played a significant part in this whole mess. She should feel guilty. She messed up big time. First, her sister, Murray, takes up most of her free time that she used to spend with me. Then they both end up in a drunken gangbang. I want to kick them both. I hate her for that so much right now. I just don't know if I'll ever get over it. You know, my mom and dad went through this very same thing a few years ago. Mom went out with her girlfriends a couple of times a month. One night, they all had too much to drink, and Mom got involved with some guy. I thought at first that Dad was going to die of a heart attack. Then I thought he was going to kick my. They worked it all out in the end, though. You and Brenda will too. Your parents are still married then, I said. They worked it out, not that they stayed married. Look, Jeff, what Brenda did was wrong in so many ways and on so many levels. But that doesn't mean she doesn't still love you. I know it seems like she has tossed you aside, but she hasn't. She messed up and got caught up in a situation that went too far, too fast. It happens. Alcohol and drugs are the two things that cause things like this to happen most often. Lowered inhibitions, coupled with peer pressure and having fun, can do that to anyone. Well, it doesn't really matter now, does it? I mean, the deed is done, and she's straight. I, on the other hand, never strayed. Of course, I didn't have a sister or brother constantly pulling me away from my wife. We were walking and talking, and I found my anger subsiding. Jill had a soothing way of speaking that genuinely helped. I wasn't sure where Brenda and I were headed now, whether we'd stay together or divorce, but I was willing to try to work through it all. I think I can go back and talk a bit. I have a question or two for you. Okay, then ask away. I tried to sound upbeat, but inside I was still reeling. Maybe that was part of my problem. I was trying to understand why Brenda would get into such a situation, and when she did, and I found out, it hurt me deeply. I was trying to contain my anger, perhaps out of righteous indignation. Jeff, before Marie began monopolizing Brenda's time, how were things between you two? Fine, I think. We've been together for 20 years, so some of the magic has naturally faded. But I believe we were doing better than most couples with our history. Did I take Brenda out often? Probably not enough. Maybe I took her for granted. But Murray really drove a wedge between us. After they started going out, if I tried to spend time with Brenda, she'd either decline because of Murray or get upset with me for trying to pull her away from her sister. Murray, the sorry, isn't one of my favorite people right now. With Murray competing for Brenda's attention, I suppose drifting apart was inevitable. Did you bring Brenda flowers or compliment her spontaneously? Did you make love to her often? Our intimate life was, well, you don't get it, Jeff. I said make love, not intimate play. There's a difference. Making love doesn't necessarily mean intimacy. Women love to be made love to. That means endearments, caresses, flowers, candy, romance. Were you romancing her? Well, not really. We've been together so long that I assumed the effort to keep her was a thing of the past. You shouldn't have to fight to keep her faithful, true. But couples need to keep each other close. Small gestures add up. I guess you could have been more romantic. Jill, you have a blunt way of putting things. After realizing I might lose her, I tried to take her out, do things for her, and even complimented her more. But Murray had already monopolized her time. Some of our biggest arguments recently have been over her and Marie's girls' nights out. I hate to say this, Jeff, but you two drifted apart. You should have noticed the signs before the night's out. What she did was wrong, yes, but do you think this would have happened if you two had been getting along better? It's not all or even mostly your fault, but she needed something she wasn't getting from you. If only she'd communicated or you'd noticed. Somehow, I bet that would have prevented all of this. Maybe you're taking her side now, though. I mean, it's more than just me that caused this. It's not my fault. I might not have helped my case much, but she's the one who refused to try after she knew I was trying. She locked me out, not the other way around. Besides, she cheated on us. Even though I was angry about her time spent with Murray, I never even considered being with another woman. I love Brenda too much to do that to her. You're right about that too. Let's go back and see if you can ask her about that. Be direct but keep calm. I know that Mark thinks the world of you, and getting divorced over what happened won't really fix things for either of you. Talk it out. Maybe love will bloom again, and you can put this behind you. I say that because I heard you say you love Brenda too much to have cheated on her. Update 3. I wish I could be as confident as this young woman was. Jill seemed to know things. I guess she had been old enough when her parents had their problem. She must have picked up some insights along the way. Back at Mark's, I found Brenda clear-eyed and waiting for us. So, Brenda, where are we? I don't know, Jeff. I know where I want to be, but I'm unsure if you'll accept that. Accept what? I cheated on you. It was a one-time thing that will never happen again. All I can say is that I'm so sorry, but that doesn't erase it. We'll have to deal with my infidelity, and you'll understandably have a hard time trusting me since I destroyed any trust you had in me. Can you accept that I realize what I've done was wrong, that I'm sincerely sorry, and will never do anything like that again? Can we move on from here? I don't really know, Brenda. It's not just that you cheated, it's how you cheated. In a one-night drunken group situation. I'm not sure I could even accept one man, let alone two, and your sister too. That hurts. What hurts more is that I was trying to figure out how to win you back, and you wouldn't give me a chance. Now you're asking me to give you a chance after you've been with two other men and a woman. I never cheated on you. I never strayed. Maybe I am guilty of not working on us enough, but it takes two to tango. I am sorry for what I did. Being with those men was never in my plans. I never intended to cheat on you. I hate to say it, but the alcohol played a role in my losing my inhibitions. It was wrong, so very wrong. All I can say is that things got way out of hand, and before I knew it well, I never thought it through. It leaves an ugly image in my mind, Brenda. I also wonder if there's room for me in your life anymore. Don't say that. There will always be room in my life for you, Jeff. I love you. Look, I messed up big time, and I can't erase that night. All I can do is try to move on and hope you'll forgive me someday and maybe trust me again. I don't deserve it, and I know if the roles were reversed, I'm not sure I could forgive and move on either. Those other men. They were just different. I didn't notice much about them, just the differences. It was like a deep dark fantasy come true for me that night, and the alcohol played a part. I just let loose when I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Okay, we have issues, it seems, and neither of us knows what to do now. Maybe we need a trial separation to give us time to figure out what we both want. A large tear formed at the corner of Brenda's eye. As it began to fall, I could tell she had been expecting this or worse from me. I somewhat resented the small bit of satisfaction I felt seeing the pain my suggestion caused her. Deep inside, there was a feeling of so there, beach. In some ways, those feelings were justified. I still loved her and didn't want to lose her, not without a fight. But I also knew that staying together with those thoughts could lead to me seeking revenge or, worse still, hurting her directly. I don't want to lose you, Jeff, but I understand if you want to divorce me. I have no excuse to offer, and nothing I say could stop you from leaving. If a trial separation is what you think we need, then as much as I hate the thought, that's what we should do. Hold it right there, you two, Jill interjected, stepping between us with a look of determination. If you two opt for this trial separation, you'll be heading for divorce in no time. That's what my parents did. All it does is keep you apart, not communicating. Bit by bit, you drift further apart, and the memories will consume you. Soon, the only option left is divorce. You do need to separate, but maybe just into separate rooms, not different houses. You both need to be together to see if you can work through the anger and pain. I say this because I witnessed it with my parents. Ask my dad who he loves today, and he'll say my mother. My mom will say the same about my father. Yet, they're divorced and apart. You can't go down this path. You both have to confront this mistake head-on. The conviction in her voice resonated with me. I recognized the wisdom in her words, but what about those thoughts of mine and the pleasure I took in Brenda's pain? I looked at Brenda, pondering deeply. Could I let her into my house again? Could I resist the urge to lash out at her in the coming weeks or months? Could I ever come to terms with everything that had transpired? Jill's voice broke the tense silence. Jeff. Then my son Mark voiced his concern. Dad. I felt the weight of their expectations. You guys are putting a lot of pressure on this old man. Maybe a trial separation is a bad idea, but I'm genuinely concerned about how safe Brenda will be around me for a while. At times, I'm so angry I could, well, you get the idea. You do realize that, right? We understand, Jeff, Jill responded. When my parents were in this situation, they should have faced it together instead of dwelling on the negatives separately. It won't be easy, I know. But if you both want to stay together, you need to be together. If you can't manage that, then maybe divorce is the answer. The only way to truly know is to give it a shot. I appreciated Jill's intentions, but I wondered how much she truly understood. Was this just youthful optimism? I needed time to think about our options. The anger I felt towards Brenda was palpable, and here they were, suggesting I stay with her and work things out. What if I lost control and harmed her? Not only would I lose her, but I might also face legal consequences. The separation this week had taken its toll, and I knew that if it continued, our relationship would be doomed. I don't appreciate being pressured into this, I told Mark and Jill. I wouldn't make such a decision under duress. Mark, take me to a motel for now. I'll come over tomorrow morning with my decision after I've had time to think. Final update. When I returned the next morning in a cab, Brenda seemed to be in the same spot, and both Mark and Jill looked more somber than the day before. It was clear that none of them had gotten any rest. I knew I had to give them my answer. Maybe you should come home, Brenda. I promise I'll do my utmost to not harm you or anything. But you need to understand that I might get angry and raise my voice from time to time. I suppose we do need to be together to work things out. If things can be worked out, I'll stay in our bedroom while you stay in the guest bedroom. We'll be apart, yet together. However, I can't promise anything more than that. Brenda sat there, tears streaming down her face. I could see her relief mixed with apprehension. She was probably wondering if I might become violent. I could see that fear in her eyes, and I imagined she saw a similar fear in mine. Trust is crucial in dispelling such fears, and the trust in our marriage had been shattered. The road ahead seemed long and challenging. How about counseling? Brenda's question hung in the air, sharp and unexpected. I had considered counseling before, especially during the times when Brenda and Murray were frequently going out and leaving me feeling excluded. We seem to have 2 counselors right here, I remarked, nodding towards Mark and Jill. They're pretty good. That's not what I meant, Jeff, and you know it, Brenda retorted. I understand. We both need counseling, individually and together. Starting tomorrow, we'll look for someone to help us, I agreed. Brenda left the kitchen abruptly. When she returned a few minutes later, she was carrying suitcases. Can we go home now, Jeff? Where's your car? Dad, I'll get the car. It's in the local parking garage. Jill can drive, Mark offered. She'll help out, right, Jill? You betcha. After all, I'm going to be the newest member of the family, Jill chimed in. What? Brenda and I exclaimed in unison. In all the chaos, I guess we forgot to mention it, Mark said sheepishly. I proposed to Jill last Saturday night, and she accepted. She's going to be my wife. Jill is more than welcome in this family, regardless of our situation, I said warmly. I hope you both find happiness together. I hugged Jill, then handed her off to Brenda. After shaking Mark's hand, I pulled him into a hug. I hope you both learn from our mistakes this week. And Mark, I'm sorry for overshadowing your good news. You deserve better. We left together. The journey home was quiet and intense, with each of us lost in deep thought. The tension persisted throughout the following week. Our first appointment with the counselor was scheduled for the next week, and I wasn't sure we'd make it. But we did, just barely. We continued attending sessions, both together and separately. After 8 months, the counselor believed we were ready to move forward on our own. We had worked through the pain and, while it wasn't easy, we managed to overcome the nightmare of the past. One day, Brenda returned from the doctor with a troubled expression. I could tell something was terribly wrong, but she needed a moment alone. When she returned, she beckoned me into the living room. Jeff, I have some bad news, she began, her voice trembling. I knew she would never cheat on me again, but I also sensed she had been grappling with something for a while. Brenda had always been private, rarely discussing her personal issues, even with doctors. Tears streamed down her face as she revealed, "I'm sick, Jeff. Really sick. I have cancer. It started in my ovaries and has spread. They didn't catch it in time." I was in shock. I tried to reassure her, mentioning the advancements in cancer treatments, but my words only seemed to upset her more. As I tried to comfort her, she continued, "It's beyond treatment, Jeff. The cancer has spread to my lymph glands, liver, and possibly my brain. I don't want to die, Jeff. I wasted so much time with Murray and ignored my symptoms. It's my fault." I held her close, pushing aside the anger and pain from our past. We face a new challenge now. Cancer. Despite our efforts to remain positive, Brenda's health deteriorated. She outlived the doctor's initial prognosis, and when she passed, she was surrounded by her children and me. So, you can understand my resentment towards Murray. Perhaps I'm being unfair, and maybe I should forgive and forget. But I can't. Murray led Brenda into a web of pain, causing us to lose precious time together. We lost nearly a year to the aftermath of Brenda's mistake. And I'll always wonder if, had we not been so preoccupied, we might have caught the cancer earlier. Need your thoughts, guys. Hard and sad story. Hope you enjoyed this time with me. Please subscribe my channel and drop a like.